How do you respond to the promises of God? Hi, my name is Keith, and this is My Daily Walk. Today, My Daily Walk takes me to the 18th chapter of Genesis, and we'll start in verse 9. They say to him, "Where is Sarah, your wife?" And he said, "She is in the tent." The Lord said, "I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah, your wife, will have a son." And Sarah was listening at the tent door behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in years. The way of women had ceased to be with Sarah. So Sarah laughed to herself, saying, "After I am worn out and my Lord is old, shall I have pleasure?" The Lord said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and say, 'Shall I indeed bear a child now that I am old?' Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time I will return to you about this time next year, and Sarah shall have a son." But Sarah denied it, saying, "I did not laugh," for she was afraid. He said, "No, but you did laugh." Every time I read through these verses, I can't help but think about the fact that I'm a husband, I'm kind of old, and I think that if three guys were there talking to me and asked why my wife laughed, I'd probably say, I really don't know why she laughed. You might want to ask her. But I've always found that interesting that they didn't ask Sarah. They actually went to the Lord, as she calls it, the Lord of the house, and said, "Why did your wife laugh?" And his answer was basically to ask her and to correct her. You did laugh. There's a couple of verses I want to look at specifically today in our reading. Verse 10, it says, "So Sarah laughed to herself, saying, 'After I am worn out and my Lord is old, shall I have pleasure?'" And in verse 14, it says, "Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time I will return to you about this time next year, and Sarah shall have a son." A few years back, Lori and I felt like we were being called into full-time missions. And so we went to Uganda about 4 different times over the course of about 3 years. And then in February in 2016, we were uncertain really what the Lord would have for us, but we really still felt like Uganda was what He was going to be leading us to. And so we went down to Guatemala, and we spent about a week there, and we were at a ministry center. We prayed, and we did some ministry work down there and helped in a kids camp and went into some schools and a hospital and just served the Lord and prayed and worshiped and just sought Him for direction. Well, one night it was led to us, or requested of us, that we go to Browning, Montana. And so my original thought was, why would I go to Browning, Montana? And I laughed. I literally laughed. And that night we prayed about it, and the next morning I believe that after prayer and talking to Lori, that the Lord truly did speak to us and say, "You're going to Browning, Montana." So we did. We said, yes, we'll go to Browning, Montana. For us, it was what God called us to do. And in the long run, it was a real blessing. So there were so many things that came from that ministry that we did for 6 months in Montana. We got to meet some amazing people. We were on the Blackfeet Indian Reservation, and we got to spend time there. We served the Lord there. We learned a lot about ourselves and about full-time ministry. But most of all, it was one of those things where had we not been in the States, we would have missed some opportunities that came our way. We had 3 of our children get married within 6 months of one another, and so had we been in Africa, that would have been a real challenge for us. So even though we felt like it wasn't really what we thought it was going to look like, God had a plan, and that plan was fulfilled in His time and in His way. And I think about Sarah and Abraham. A few chapters back, we see that Sarah gave Abraham her servant. And so Abraham had a child, Ishmael, with Hagar, the servant. And so they decided early on that they would fulfill the promise that God gave them on their own. And having this child, many Christians and Muslims believe that Ishmael is the line that went to Muhammad. In fact, even the Quran says that Muhammad is from the line of Ishmael. And so we look at how their promise that they fulfilled on their own didn't turn out quite the way that they had thought. But 25 years after the promise of God to Abraham, he brings a child forth. And that second child they named Isaac. A couple of years ago, Lori and I were called to adopt. And we had been thinking about that and talking about that for many years. I would say at least 15 years prior to 2017. And when we felt the call to adopt, we were old, we were tired, we were worn out, we weren't in any position, in my opinion, to start another family. Our youngest was 19 at the time. But we knew that that's what God had for us. He had promised us a child. And so in our old age and in God's providence, we didn't change his first name, but we did give him a second name, his middle name, and his middle name is Isaac. And so for us, we really thought about this story because it was easy to kind of laugh and say, God's really going to give us a child in our old age, kind of like Abraham or like Sarah did. So for us, it was a real blessing, and we've had Yanyi Isaac for for a little over 2.5 years now, or almost 2.5 years. So sometimes when we look at the blessings that God has for us, when we look at the promises that he has for us, when we rush ahead, it's going to cause some turmoil. It's going to cause challenges. I'm not saying God doesn't use those. He definitely does. But he will always fulfill his promise his way in his timing. And so my encouragement to you today is to wait on the Lord, to be patient, to seek him, and if he's promised you something and it hasn't come to pass, to just wait. Wait on the Lord. If he promised it to you, he will surely deliver it to you. So if you need prayer today, if you need someone to come alongside you and encourage you, feel free to connect with us. And once again, I'd like to say, if you want to share these videos, or if you like these videos, feel free to subscribe to my channel. But most of all, I encourage you today to walk daily in Christ and to be patient and to walk in faith, knowing that if he's promised you something, he will surely deliver it. God bless you.